it's about Allah not overburdening one, right? So what is the question? Assalamu alaikum. What does Allah not overburdening one mean? So wa alaikum assalam. So I believe this question is from Allah, from the ayah La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha, right? That Allah does not burden a soul except to its capacity, right? And so if you look at the context of the ayah, um, in Surah Al-Baqarah, obviously it's the last ayah, but the two verses before it, and even some of the preceding verses, there's a lot of discussion around rulings about debts and how to give and receive, give debts and how to document them and all of these things. The ruling of you're being judged, you'll be judged on what you think, right? Your chosen thoughts, not the stuff that just pops into your head, right? And so there's a lot of the context revolves around rulings in the Sharia. And so the question arises, how much will Allah burden us, right? In terms of rulings, right? So, and then this is further clarified by the du'as that come after. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah doesn't la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So this word yukallifu comes to, the masdar is taklif, right, the root word, which means to burden someone, to put a responsibility, a burden on someone, right? So it means that the rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to us, demanding us to, apply them, they are never more than what a human being can do, right? And they're not so difficult that we would just think, it's beyond my capacity to do this. So, for example, saying, it's obligatory on every Muslim to fast 500 days every year. It's just not possible because there aren't 500 days in a year, right? Or saying that it's obligatory for, or even another one that's more practical, well, not practical, but is, for example, saying that it's obligatory on every Muslim to give 95% of their wealth in zakat, right? And without even a year passing over that wealth, right? So could he have done that? Yes. Has he? No, right? So then he says, Laha ma kasabat wa alayha maktasabat. What it earns, you know, is in its favor. So if you do a good deed, you get the reward of it. And against it is the bad that it does. And the wording iktasabat, it's like you have to go out of your way. Uh, you can understand it like this: you have to go out of your way to earn it, to get a sin. If you intend a good deed, you get one deed written. If you do it, you get 10. But with a bad deed, if you intend it, you don't get anything written against you. But if you do it, you get one. It's like that. And then, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. Our dear Lord, don't take us to task if we forget, if by forgetfully we don't do what we're obliged to do, or we make a mistake. We mistakenly, there's a, we're weak, we commit sins or whatever, and we don't do what we're supposed to do. Don't take us to task. رَبَّنَا وَلَا تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْنَا إِصْرًا كَمَا حَمَلْتَهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِنَا. And don't overburden us with this isr, like um, a really difficult responsibility, like those before us were. So Bani Israel, because they kept resisting Sayyidina Musa, for example, if they got some sort of najasa, impurity on their clothes, they had to cut it off. Cloth isn't cheap, right? So they had to cut it off and patch it up, right? These sorts of things. They kept doing things, and more things were made haram for them, right? That's why when Sayyidina Isa came, he came to lift some of these burdens from them. Then it says, Rabbana wala tuhammilna ma la taqata lana bih. He said, and don't burden us with that which we can't do with the very limit of our strength. Taqa is when with the very limit of your ability. That you can do something, you ataqa yutiqu, right, in Arabic, that you can do something but by exerting all of your effort. And so he said, don't burden us with something that we can't do, even even with by exerting everything that we have, right? So if that was the case here, you're obliged to do this, but no matter how hard we try, we can't do it. Then then because you're not obeying the command repeatedly, repeatedly, the punishment that could mean, destruction, right? Through that punishment. So that's what is. So from the context, it's like this. Sometimes people use it in the context of you're never given a test that's too much for you to handle, right? And I don't think that's correct, right? From the context, you can see in the Sharia. So the question, what I'm saying is it possible for a person to be tested with something which is too much for them to even be patient with, right? It's like too much. And the answer clearly is yes. Look at Maryam, right? She was a Siddiqah, with the highest levels of Iman, highest levels of Wilaya. And, she was tested with, giving birth to Sayyidina Isa. So a young lady, not married, not having, not being, anywhere near a man, uncle's a prophet, religious family, she's known for her karamat, miracles, all of these things. And, she's disappeared and she's going to come back with a child. So what are people going to say? And when she's giving birth, it was all got to her. And so she said, "Ya laytani mittu qabla hadha. If only I had died way before this, or kuntu nasyan mansiya, or something worthless, forgotten." So at that moment, she's pushed beyond it. She wasn't saying it's okay, Allah will reward me, I'll get through this, Allah will reward me, Allah's with me. She wasn't saying that. She got pushed beyond that, right? So, is it possible? Yes. But there's a wisdom in everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does, and there's a kindness to everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. There's mercy in even with the hellfire in existence. That's a mercy, because you hear about it, you don't want to go there. So there's mercy and wisdom in everything, right? So that's what we believe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks after his believing servants, right? But the ayah, it's about legal rulings, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.